Hey everybody, welcome back to a special summer edition of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. My name is Fran Thomas, and I am one of the co-hosts for this show. I serve as the Assistant Director for Campus Ministry, Women's Discipleship here at Union. I normally serve alongside my buddy and co-host Ted Cluck, but because it's summer, I asked two of my colleagues to join us in conversation as we consider the things that might be swirling around in the minds of our incoming class. The families, the students, what are they thinking about? We have wrapped up new student orientation, and we just thought it might be helpful to listen to us chat about where our heart is and what we think you should be thinking about as August 14th move-in day occurs. All right, you guys, sit back, enjoy the conversation, and it is such an honor and a joy to serve you in this way. All right, everybody, welcome to a fantastic, fun summer edition of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. This is exciting because I have my two best work buddies in the house with me today. I have Hayden Phillips, Kelsey Stookey. So glad to have you all with us today. Let's tell the listeners who you are. I don't care what you want to say about who you are. It can be professional. It can be personal. It can be whatever you want it to be. Tell the listeners who you are. Hayden, we'll start with you.
Okay, no pressure. My name is Hayden Phillips. I work in the Office of Student Discipleship and Engagement at Union. Graduated from Union in 24. Started on staff afterwards. We're here. We're loving it. We're doing it.
Yep. What's your title? Did you say that and I missed it?
I didn't. I'm the Assistant Director for Campus Ministry and Men's Discipleship, which we can get into some stuff with that later. Yeah. But yeah, that's
Love
who
it.
I am. I'm an avid amateur Lego collector as well.
What makes you turn from amateur to professional?
Having enough money to buy more
Legos. Okay.
Because it looks like a professional. He is one already.
For real.
That's what it seems like.
So it all has to do with quantity.
Kind of, yeah.
And quality. Is there a quality of Lego?
There is. Well, like, this is so off topic.
We're going to come back to Kelsey in just a minute. We're curious.
True.
The listeners need to know.
That's true. It really just depends. I think there is a quality of like
who knew
a more elaborate set versus not
but don't they tell you what to do?
They do tell you what to do. That's what makes it easy. My brain doesn't have to, like, it's a calming, you just do what it says.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like puzzles. Puzzles, you got to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, well.
That stresses me out.
I hate puzzles, but that's a whole nother, we're diving into a whole nother topic. Okay, Kelsey, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. What do you want the listeners to know about you, Kelsey?
Oh my goodness. Well, my name's Kelsey. My fancy title is Assistant Director for Student Activities and Experience.
Yes.
Which incorporates lots of different things. But I went to Union, graduated in December of 2019, went to seminary, then came back because we love it so much.
Yeah.
So here
and
we
you're
are.
married.
I'm married. I have a sweet little boy who is chaotic and fun and noisy and messy, and I love it. And
is that the husband or the child?
Both. Yes. It's all boys. It's all chaos all the time. There's grass everywhere right now. It's fantastic.
It is. It's a lot of fun. No, I love these two so much, and I'm so glad to not only know them, but work with them and be able to have this conversation with you all today. What the purpose of this podcast is, since it's a summer special edition without Ted Cluck, we love you, Ted, is that we have just completed all of our new student orientations. We had in person, we've had virtual, and it just seemed like a good idea to have this podcast available to incoming students and families and just give them an opportunity to listen to some of the things that we think, okay, this stands out, this is important, where we are in the summer, this is the type of stuff that you may want to remind yourself of, because y'all, if you came to orientation and parents, you listened to all the sessions, it's a lot of information. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, now what am I supposed to do with all that? I barely remember what they said. And what am I supposed to do with all that? So here we are. Okay, so I feel like a great starting point, but hang on a minute. Somebody talk for about 10 seconds while I find my phone. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
I'll talk really quick. I failed to mention that I am also married. So
That's very important.
It is important.
If you know his
It is
wife,
important.
she's amazing.
she is. She's great. But yeah, my wife just
Shout out to
graduated from
Gracie.
Union. She's a nurse now. She's doing nurse things, killing it.
Y'all are
B6.
adulting for real.
We are. It's
Working
great.
adults.
We love to see it.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
Okay, thank you. I left my phone in my purse. Okay,
back.
so we have heard Dr. Dub. Dr. Dub addresses families when he is speaking at orientation. And before we recorded this, as we were listening to him speak yesterday on virtual orientation, he ended his talk with 3 pieces of advice. And as I was listening to him say those things, I was like, hey, that pretty much captures everything I feel like we're going to hit on today. So I thought that would be a great guide for us and a great guide for families. And if you were here, you were able to listen to Dr. Dub, then you probably heard him say these things. So I'm not going to read them off all at once right now. We'll just go 1, talk about it. Number 2, talk about it. Number 3, I think too, what's also, before I go into those things, I think what's absolutely fascinating, I have said this so many times over the years that I've worked at Union, and that is the transformation that takes place over these 4 years is absolutely incredible. And I've heard Dr. Dub say this, and that is these years between 18 and 22 are the second most formative years of your entire life outside of 0 to 5. The second most formative years of your entire life. So where you go to college matters. So before we say anything about anything, we are so thankful and we celebrate the fact that you have chosen to attend Union. Whether you're coming in as a freshman or you're coming in as a transfer, these 4 years matter. And so it is a real privilege for us to come alongside students in student life through our office and just journey with you through these 4 years that are that transformative. So, wow, let that sink in for just a second. Okay, Hayden, before we dive into the pieces of advice that Dr. Dub gives families and students, let everybody know, who are we? What office do we represent within student life? What's our mission statement? What's important to us? Tell the people all the things.
Great question, Fran. So we all represent the Office of Student Discipleship and Engagement at Union. And so our aim as an office is really just to meet students where they are by providing a grace-infused student experience that fosters Christ-centered formation. And so we have 4 different priorities where we kind of see those things happen, where we're thinking about, okay, how are we implementing these things? How are we serving students well in all these ways? So those are biblical discipleship, leadership development, global engagement, and through student programs.
Yes.
So we do lots of different things, but at the heart of all of that is discipleship, leadership development, global engagement, and ultimately providing programs for all of our students.
So everything, most everything, if not everything that we say on this episode is going to find its way in one of those priorities.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
All right. So here is the first piece of advice that Dr. Dub gives, that he gave during orientation. And I love it. And none of this is like going to be, oh, I've never heard that before. But we're going to break down things within each one of these pieces of advice that I feel like are just practical things that you need to consider and think about based on where we are in the calendar and about what you're about to step into attending Union. Okay, his first piece of advice is work hard because you will be challenged. All right, let's talk about that. Work hard because you will be challenged. I don't know. We could go 1,000 different directions. Everything from everybody's coming out of a different high school experience, whether you were in school, traditional high school, whether you were homeschooled, and now you're stepping into the university classroom. And you're also you're experiencing life outside of the classroom. So work hard because you're going to be challenged. That's everything and everywhere. But let's just talk about the transition from high school to college in the classroom setting, because I think that when you hear that, I at least kind of default to, what is the classroom like? Hayden, I was talking to you about this morning, and I was like, I know that you're not a student anymore, but you're a whole lot closer to it than I am. And I know that Kelsey can chime in on this too. Let's talk about that. What comes to mind when you think about the transition from high school to college?
I think one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest differences that students will experience is there's a lot of independence with your education. What I mean by that is there's a lot of opportunity to really like take the horse by the reins and run with it. So like on day one, when you're going through your syllabus days, so you're hearing from your professors about what the semester is going to look like, what the schedule is going to be, what assignments are going to be, test dates, all those things. You're either going to have that opportunity to see that, and then it's just going to roll off the shoulder, move on, or you have the opportunity to say, okay, let's make a calendar, let's make a study schedule. There's not going to be a lot of here's everything you need to do each day of the week in order to succeed. There really is a great opportunity to take independence with your education.
Right.
And that's not to say that our professors aren't going to walk alongside you and support you in all these things. But they really want to allow you to have the opportunity to, think about for yourself, what does your own commitments look like? What does your study habits need to be? Because the same thing doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
It's not you can't copy and paste it for each person.
Right.
So that would be my thing, just to go ahead and start thinking about how are you going to make your work, your education journey, how are you going to make that your own? How are you going to take ownership of that?
Let me also say this. I'm about to say something that I think we forget about, but I remember having to do this with my own kids and them just kind of looking at me like, Mom, this is so ridiculous. But also it was like, hang on a minute, you're not used to this. We operate on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, Tuesday, Thursday. And that is a big adjustment for students because in high school, whether it's, I don't know, I didn't homeschool my kids, but I would imagine your days were the exact same. You showed up to school at start time, you were there till end time, and your schedule was basically the same every day. And so I remember on a piece of paper writing out for my kids, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like, I know they had a printout schedule, but for them looking at that, they couldn't see it correctly. So whether it's on your calendar or a piece of paper or some form that your brain can start seeing and thinking about, this is what time I get up. This is what time I go to class. This is what time I'm going to eat lunch. I know that sounds so elementary, but in the beginning, I think you just think it's all going to come natural to you, and it doesn't. Anything y'all want to say about that?
Kind of. I have two things that I think I would have loved to know when I was a freshman is everybody's having to work hard.
That's
so
right.
Don't you dare assume and look around at your classmates and think, I'm the only one. I have to work so hard because that can stop you from trying and actually trying to excel at your classes. But everybody else is working hard too.
That's right.
And the second thing that Dr. Dub said that I thought was super helpful is those 5 words, I could use some help.
Yes.
I came in pre-med, and so I was taking all these hard classes thinking nobody else was struggling, and then never having to have a tutor ever in my life, which isn't everyone's story, but I was so ashamed of needing the extra help that I didn't for a little while. So those 5 words are so freeing when you come in knowing those 2 things. One, everybody's working hard. It just may look different than your working hard does. And then I could use some help. We have so many resources here and want you to succeed. So take advantage of those fast before it's too late.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up. I could use some help, because that's not just for freshmen. That's everybody. That's just life. We need to be okay with that throughout life. But when I also think about the challenges, I'm also thinking about outside of the classroom. And so you're also, as a student, you're learning how to live with people that you've never lived with before. I highly doubt that you're coming to college and you're going to have one of your siblings as a roommate. And so learning how to live with people, how to figure out people's schedules and patterns, and who's the messy one and who's the neat one, and who's the one that's always taking out the trash, and who's the one that's worried about the dishes and who's not. And so that is a challenge. Do you all have any thoughts, piece of advice, or just considerations for people that are making that transition from home to living on campus?
I would say, and this goes along with that, but I think this can also be applied to a lot of different areas of just going to college, becoming a college student, is learning what it looks like to pursue people. Because, like, I did not pursue people well in high school, and really didn't figure out what that looked like until college. And it really came down to, like, being curious about people and wanting to know about people and what their passions are, what drives them, what motivates them. Because all these little things like that, like you talk about in a dorm room, all these little habits, and who's the one that's tendency is this, whose tendency is this other thing. I think a lot of that can be boiled down to, like, if you're pursuing the people and you're, like, getting to know the people and truly knowing who they are, I think that's a big step in, like, figuring out how all this works and how all these dynamics operate. You've got to pursue people.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to be honest in who you are, because I don't know, I would be the one that would come into this environment and, like, trying to be everything and everybody that I'm probably not really, that's not really who I am. I want to be this person, and I want to be this one, and I want to be known as this one, and I want to look like I've got it all together, and I want to, be the neat one when deep down inside I'm a complete, slob or whatever. Like, just that pressure to perform in and out of the classroom, just in daily living. Like, that's tough. It's tough to be comfortable and know who you are, but at the same time, you're being challenged and stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing exactly what you said. And that's really, really tough. Okay, Kelsey, what do you want to say to that?
I would say over communicate. Always over communicate. Caleb and I, my husband, have this conversation often of, I can't read your mind. And sometimes we assume, like, oh, she'll think about taking out the trash, or she should know that the sink shouldn't be full of dishes when she leaves for class in the morning. These kinds of little things that you think maybe your family did it so differently, so you just assume they know better, when we cannot assume that. And then we get upset and all the things. So if you just try, and not in a harsh way or a rude way, you figure that out, what that dynamic is, but just over communicating, saying things before it gets awkward, and you can't turn back.
Right. And I want to say this too about living in community in dorm life. And if you're coming in as a freshman and you're living in Heritage, I love the Heritage environment, the way that it's set up structurally. But also, regardless if you are a freshman or an upperclassman living in our quads, you have an RA. You have that person that could be your, I need some help. That's a resource for you. That is part of what they're there for. You have your professors. You have those of us on staff that you can go to, but you've also got your RA. And I think they can be forgotten because you're just looking, as a freshman, you're just thinking, well, they're just a peer. What do they know? No, they know everything. You're right. And they've gone through a lengthy process of being hired and trained and prepared to not just be a college student with you and to live alongside you, but to be a tremendous resource for you.
Absolutely.
So
freshman year is already difficult for a lot of reasons. I mean, just a new place and new people and all those many things. But I cannot imagine how much more difficult my freshman year would have been had it not been for my freshman RA.
Love that.
Huge.
Who do we need to give a shout out to?
Shout out to Dave Edgren.
Oh, the Dave Edgren.
The Dave Edgren.
Oh, that's
shout out Dave Edgren.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay, so the second piece of advice that Dr. Dubb gave is this, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of conversations centered around number 2. And that piece of advice from our president is this: take advantage of opportunities to learn and grow while you are here. And these are the opportunities that are outside of the classroom. Could be tied a little bit to the classroom, but we are specifically going to talk about things outside of the classroom, that these are just those opportunities, like he said, to learn and grow. Kelsey, I'll let you go first. Why don't we start off with immediately upon move-in day, which is Thursday, August the 14th. Once they're moved in and settled and we've experienced what we experience on that Thursday, and also FYI, parents, stay for the service that night. You don't want to leave campus too early. You want to stay after dinner for our worship service with all the new families. So you want to do that. But once that ends and parents are gone, Kelsey, what is this wild week that we're stepping into with our students? Let's talk about that.
Oh, Welcome Week. We love Welcome Week. Welcome Week is for you, for the student, whether you've done this before and you're transferring in or you're an incoming student. The goal of Welcome Week is to get you acclimated to campus, because we want you to take your classes so seriously, but we also want you to have a lot of fun and to take advantage of all those opportunities to learn and grow. So during Welcome Week, it'll be a lot of information. We'll take you to all your classes, so don't stress about that aspect. We'll show you where all the buildings are. We'll give you even the lingo, because there's some words that you're like, that's not what that building is supposed to be called.
Give us an example.
Okay, so Brewer Dining Hall is where we eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Students call it Kobo.
Yes.
And so you would never know that. You would never know that. And you do not want to be the person wearing your Welcome Week lanyard going, okay, let's go to Brewer Dining Hall. And your leader's going to look at you and go, no, we call it Kobo. So little things like that, so that you can be embraced into that community. We try and be really, really thoughtful in how we lay out Welcome Week. It can feel like a whole lot of stuff, but it's for acclimating you to the campus and helping you have all the tools you can have to succeed before that Tuesday, August 19th, where you start classes. Yeah. So again, it'll be a lot of fun. My advice, real quick, my plug, I love Welcome Weeks. I'm going to say go to everything, but know your limits. Yes. We don't want you to go in and go to everything and then be exhausted. And then you don't show up to class on Tuesday. And then we get an angry call from your parents. Know yourself, but also go to as much as you can, because you will never be with just your class that you're coming into Union with. Again, it is just you guys. And so it's a super special opportunity. You guys are going to be together, hopefully for the next 4 years. And so it's just an incredible opportunity to bond and transition well and engage with all the students. So that's a little bit about Welcome Week.
I think that Welcome Week is definitely one of those things that is super informative, but it's also super fun. It's not just, let me just keep going to sessions to hear people talk. Like it is, we're going to have some fun. You're going to get to know your classmates. You're going to be in a Welcome Week group, just like you were when you came for orientation. Different leaders, but the same concept, right?
Right.
And so it's just, it's like a lot happening in a short amount of time. But once Welcome Week is over and classes begin on Tuesday, it's like, oh, hang on a minute. Then I'm on my own.
That's right.
What am I doing? Where's my Welcome Week leader?
Yes. And they will still be there. That's the good thing. Take advantage of them.
Yeah.
They are the experts. Like, they are trained. They love Union and want to answer all of your questions. So that would be another piece of advice is we train these 31 Welcome Week leaders, and they love you and want to do this job. So ask them the hard questions. They can handle it, and just allow them to be a resource. My Welcome Week leader was in my wedding.
Oh, my gosh.
You can create that kind of relationship.
Okay, shout out. Who's this person?
Shout out to Corinne Allen. She was my Welcome Week leader. And I can't imagine doing college without her. So,
yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Okay, so part of also what's happening in Welcome Week is we call it a student life fair. That's occurring on one of those days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, one of those days, we have a student life fair. We also have an opportunity, Hayden, where students can learn about something that you're super passionate about. Yes. And so this is another opportunity for students to learn and grow quickly. Once they've been at Union and they're starting classes, it's relatively quickly. And I think this is something that if you're listening to this show, before you get here, you really need to consider and think about making this a priority.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about life groups.
Let's talk about life groups. So life groups really picks up right where Welcome Week kind of ends. And so Welcome Week will, have its time, and then classes start, and then you're into the full college experience at that point. So where life group comes in during your first 8 weeks of the semester, so up until fall break. And life groups is a small group ministry. It's been at Union for many years, started in 1997, fun fact. But life groups is meant to provide new students with community amongst one another, but also provide them relationships with some incredible upperclassmen leaders as they pursue the Lord together. And so your life group, over the span of this 8 weeks, you're going to be meeting together. You're going to be fellowshipping together. You're going to be, eating with one another, going to play pickleball. You're going to be having game nights. You're going to be doing all these fun things. But at the heart of this is this mission, is this goal to encourage, to provide, to show what Christ-centered belonging looks like in the college context.
I love that,
and
Christ-centered belonging.
I love it.
That's such a beautiful
We
phrase.
love life groups.
We love it. And so during those 8 weeks, you're going to fellowship together, but you're also going to open the Word together. So our life group leaders, they're going to be upperclassmen, male and female. So each group is co-ed. There's going to be about 8 to 10 new students in each group. And these are student leaders who desire deeply to build relationships with new students and also to just lead them well as they open the Word with them. And so these are going to be incredible relationships to have, incredible resources, very similar to a Welcome Week leader, where you can go to them past that 8 weeks. You can continue that relationship. They can continue to be a friend and a resource. And this is really kind of helping in that transition of, you're from a different town. You may have been very active in a local church. You may not have been active in a local church. But this is kind of a transition of saying, hey, we want to show you what community can look like here while you're trying to figure out what your local church community can be. So that's another thing of life groups too. Like, we highly encourage all of our life group leaders to visit churches with their life group students and get them plugged in those places as well. Because life groups is only 8 weeks.
I know, and that will also go so fast.
Yeah.
How are these students going to? How are they going to be placed in a group? Because that, if I don't know, that kind of stresses me out, and I'm like,
sure.
Are you, Hayden, placing me in a group, or do I have some sort of say so in the group that I will be in?
Right. It's a great question. So during Welcome Week, you're gonna go to what's called the life group fair. And this is an opportunity where you get to meet all of the life group pairs. So each pair of leaders is going to be there. They're going to share about themselves, share about their themes, what they're about. So you get an opportunity to meet all of them. And then at the end of that time, you get to submit your top 5 preferences for a life group. So you get to say, you know what, these are 5 different groups, 5 different pairs of leaders that I really connected with, that I could really see myself getting plugged in with, that I would love to learn from, love to have a relationship with. And then we take those and we prayerfully match all of those new students into all of those different life groups.
Okay. And so that, I pulled up my handy dandy Welcome Week schedule. That's on Saturday.
That's on Saturday.
Okay.
Right.
So
and it's so much fun. Like, you get to really see the personality of the leaders. Right. They have themes, right?
They do.
So
they do.
Off the bat, you're like, oh, I'm into that. And so I want to be a part of that group.
Absolutely.
So it's a good way. It's not a high pressure situation where you're having to ask all these intense questions. You just figure out, do I like pickleball, or do I like Legos or whatever?
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, Kelsey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the Student Life Fair. That's another opportunity for students to see a lot of different organizations, a lot of different opportunities for them to learn and grow. Now, I think a lot of people are asking, thinking, students especially, and then the parents are thinking about it too from a little bit of a different angle, is how is my student going to know what to get involved in? How much should they be involved in? Because everybody's different. I would be like, I want to do it all. And my mom would have been in the background going, no way, sister, you're here to go to class. And so, but then when you get here, you're separated from your parent and they're not really making the decisions for you. help us think through how to get involved when it's just like, I can either do this or this, I can do 100 things. I want to be in Greek life. I want to be a part of whatever. Help us think about what that process is practically during Welcome Week, and then as they're deciding what to be a part of.
Absolutely. You go from, it's such a crazy transition because in high school, there's a few different things, a handful of things. Beta Club, DECA, there's those organizations, and you can be in all of them practically and still succeed.
Right.
We have over 90 student organizations on campus. Please do not try and be in every single one of them. That is not ideal. But during the Campus Life Fair, we invite all of those organizations to be present, and they will have a table. You can pick up their pamphlets. I would give you the advice of look online first and say, if you did Senate in high school or student government, we have SGA here. If you love events, we have Student Activities Council. You know yourself. And so that should be something you already are aware of, know what you want to be into, and then we definitely have an organization for it. If you don't think we do, you can start one. So there is plenty of room to succeed there. But the Campus Life Fair is something that sometimes students skip out on.
Yeah.
And I would say, please do not do that because you do not know what we have. Looking at a website can feel kind of boring, but here are the people who are most likely the officers who love this student organization that are present. So please go, take advantage, but look before ahead of time so that you cannot be overwhelmed, because it looks like a huge endeavor to go to every single one of these tables. And don't go to every single one of these tables.
Yeah.
Have a few already picked out that you can chat with those people. And the second piece of advice I would say is give yourself some grace when you're thinking about what organizations you want to join. You do not have to have it all figured out once Welcome Week is over. Even 2 weeks into school, we recommend if you went to our rotating session, Trenton and I recommend you go to the events that these organizations are hosting. So SAC hosts something during Welcome Week. SGA hosts something during Welcome Week. Recruitment for women and men is a few weeks after Welcome Week. So just go and interact with those people. If they're people that you enjoy being around and the organization is something that you think you would thrive in and could see yourself in for the next 4 years, then be a part of that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I would say is some people are different, but practically, if you want to be all in for an organization, 2 to 3 is what I would recommend. I would not say going for 5 or 6 or 7 organizations. Now, we have students who can do that really well, and I applaud them. But if you want to be fully invested and to grow in that organization, I would say 2 to 3. And if you go your first year and you're like, oh, that wasn't really what I thought it would be, then you can withdraw from that organization and try another one. But I would not join them all and then start weeding them out, because freshman year is hard enough. Transferring into a university is hard enough. So limit yourself to a few. As you figure out what this whole college life looks like, then you can add or subtract what that looks like. But don't put the pressure on yourself to figure it all out within Welcome Week.
That's so good. That's such great advice. Hayden, let's talk about, well, both of y'all are going to talk about it, but let's start off with you. I want to talk about Greek life for just a second, because I think that it is one of those things that we love and appreciate that we are able to have it, national sororities and fraternities on this campus, but yet we operate differently than what parents may have experienced themselves or that you hear about in the news. So I want both of you all to address it from your own personal experience if you want to, but also what does that look like if somebody is interested in Greek life? You just briefly touched on it, Kelsey, but let's speak a little bit more into that.
Yeah, so I think from just thinking about all student organizations as a whole, our heart personally for all of our student organizations and the work that they're doing and the opportunities that they're offering for one another, the heart of that is always that would be an extension of Union's mission, and that would be an extension of Union's mission being that we're in service to church and society, and we want to develop character and we want to develop excellence in these students. And so all of our student organizations, whether that be Greek Life or whether that be Life 139 or whether that be can name 90 of them. The heart for each of those, and the advisors for each of those, the heart being, okay, this is an extension of what we're doing in other places, and that heart is good. Like that intention is good there. And so that's one thing I would highlight first. My own personal story, when I came to Union, I knew that Greek life was something I wanted to be involved in. My reasoning for that was the local church I grew up in Jackson. So many of my incredible college leaders in my student ministry were involved in Greek life at Union. And so I got to see, okay, this is a student that's involved in this, and this is what their character is, and this is the way that they're serving the church, and this is the way that they're pursuing the Lord personally. And so for me, that made me feel safe in walking in and jumping in and being a part of that. And that's not to say it's for everybody. That goes with all student organizations. But at the same time, I would just encourage you to think well on the work that's happening there, and to consider who these people are and how they're leading and how they're serving in other places.
And just because you're not going to say this about yourself, but Hayden was the president.
That is true.
That's right.
One of our fraternities. Would you like to share the fraternity that you were president of, Hayden?
I was a president of Lambda Chi Alpha when I was a student.
Okay, since one of our I always say, I know we all call them different things, our pillars, our buckets, our priorities within our office is leadership development. What did that position, that title, that opportunity to learn and grow outside of the classroom.
100%.
Now that you look back on that, what do you think this is what I learned what it means to be a godly Christian leader that's also trying to lead a whole bunch of my peers?
There's a whole lot there.
I know.
We could do a whole podcast.
I'm
just
putting
on
you
that.
on the spot. We didn't even really talk about that, but
I think one of the greatest things I learned during that year in that role is what failure looks like and what a proper response to failure looks like.
Wow. That's a whole podcast in and of itself.
It is. Because I was definitely imperfect in a lot of ways, of just like leadership, and so many moments of, I should have said this, I should have done this, I should have considered this when making that kind of decision. All that great stuff. But being able to, the great part of that opportunity is I got to do that in a very safe place.
Yes.
With people who loved me
Yes.
and people who had the best intentions for me.
Yes.
So that whenever I failed, I had peers who were walking alongside me and not pushing me down because of that.
Right.
But they were coming alongside me and saying, okay, well, we screwed this up. Let's figure out together how we're going to learn, how we're going to grow. And ultimately, like, people who are going to like look at your failure and be able to point you back to the gospel of being like, you're right, you did fail,
right,
but here's the grace that's offered, and here's where this points back to the reality of living as redeemed individuals.
I say a lot to parents that your student is going to fall and fail.
Yeah.
And that's going to look a lot of different ways. But what I do love and appreciate about that process, it's in how we pick people up, that we will pick them up. If we're aware and we know and we see, we will pick up your student very well. And I love that. I love that. Okay, Kelsey, anything else that you want to say about Greek life practically as it's approaching you oversee women's Greek life, and Trenton oversees men's Greek life, but if there's somebody sitting there thinking, I really want to do that, is that something they should search on the website? When does that open up? How does registration? How do I sign up? All those things.
Yes. Great questions, Fran. So recruitment can feel really scary. I did not know I was going to go through recruitment when I was a student. My sister went to a state school. Lots of my, movie ideas of Greek life, I was terrified. I was like, no way I'm going to do that. And so I didn't know the first thing about recruitment, and it seemed really scary, even though I was an extrovert. But I would say it's not very scary. It's very easy to sign up. And if nothing else, you get to meet new students through that whole week. You get hours and hours you get to spend with them, meeting people. It's a whole week of talking to people, them asking about you, you asking about them. So Trent and I both like to say, for the men's and the women's Greek life, if you don't know, this is a no obligation sign up. Like, to go through recruitment for women's or men's, this is not a commitment. So I want to make that clear, because that can feel like, oh, I'm signing up for something when I pay for the registration fee.
Right.
That is not the case. So you can go through the whole week and decide, oh, this is not really for me. Maybe it's too much commitment, because it is a time commitment. Maybe it's too much financial commitment, because it is a financial commitment. Just know that when you're coming in, is that I recommend lots of women and men just to try it, because you don't know. You don't know if you will like it or you won't. So that's the first thing. How you do it practically, recruitment for men and women, the link to register is live on our website. So if you go to uu.edu /Greek life, you can sign up. We have a short application. It will ask you some questions, and then you will pay the fee. Then you'll be contacted by either on the women's side, it's the Panhellenic Council, and then on the men's side, it's IFC, Interfraternal Council, I guess. I don't know. That may be wrong. But you can do that now. We have a whole handbook on the Panhellenic side for what that looks like, what you wear to the rounds, frequently asked questions, what exactly this is. But I would go look. Our website has so many good resources. But that's one thing. I would say the women's part of recruitment starts the week after Welcome Week.
And that's quick.
It's so fast. So classes start on Tuesday. We have an open event, which this is great, and then I'll end. But we have an open event on Thursday called the Panhellenic Social. So it is just going to be women who represent those sororities for you to ask questions. And you don't have to register for recruitment to go to that event.
Yeah.
So if you're still hesitant, please go to that Thursday event, ask your questions, figure out who's there. Like, are these the people that I could see myself hanging out with it for the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
And then decide. And then recruitment starts on Monday. We have recruitment 101, and then all the rounds start Tuesday of the next week.
Wow.
So you can sign up. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or Trenton. I loved my time in Greek life, but again, it's not for everybody. So we want y'all to know that for all of the student programs, some people love it, but it's not for everybody. We do have about 33% of our campus are in Greek organizations. So that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people thrive and succeed and find those leadership opportunities that Hayden was talking about.
Yeah. Let me say this too, that if you are a regular podcast listener of any podcast and you know where show notes are, I will have links to all of the things that we've talked about in this episode. So you just can go find those links within the show notes, as well as our email addresses. So if you've got questions for us, you just need a little bit more clarity on something we've said or haven't said that you've just got a question about, well, I'll have our email addresses in there as well. Something else that we don't have time to talk about, but it will be in the show notes, are another opportunity to learn and grow, and that is through Go Trips. And so if you have an interest of any kind to serve on a short-term mission trip through the university, there's plenty of national and international opportunities for you to do that. And so that will also be linked, and I would love for you to check that out as well. Okay, so let's see. The last thing this is point number 3 from our beloved president when he was giving us pieces of advice. And that is this. And this is probably my favorite, and probably the one that we're not going to be able to talk about too terribly long for the sake of time. But I feel like what we're going to say is going to be rich and powerful and meaningful. And that is invest in relationships. Invest in relationships. We've said that kind of indirectly as we're talking about the other 2 points. But before you think about the personal relationships that you want to invest in, and we highly encourage you to do that through the faculty that you have access to. Remember, we don't have teaching assistants. We don't have grad assistants teaching classes. You have faculty that you will have access to, and they are experts in their field. But most importantly, I think what matters to us, I have said this all along, and I always kind of maybe cringe a little, not in a bad way, but I understand what I'm about to say in the context of being higher education, is that we want you to love and know and pursue the Lord above anything else, above your academics. And I know that I'm saying that in the context of you're here to go to school, but because we are a Christian university, and one of our values is that we are Christ-centered, and we want you to have a relationship with the Lord, that you're pursuing Him and growing in that relationship. So what can you two say as you think about these 4 years, 18 to 22 years of age? They're stepping away from home. Their church life is going to change. You don't have mom and dad waking you up and telling you to get up and go. You're going to be exceptionally tired as you are making this change in your life. How can you encourage students to, I don't think we need to explain invest in relationships. I think everybody understands what we mean by that. But how do you encourage students to invest in their relationship with the Lord, considering who they are and where they're coming from?
This is
Hayden,
such a big question.
I know it's let's go out with a bang. Hayden, you go first. We'll give Kelsey time to think.
I would say that the best way to invest in relationships is to serve people. And so if you're a follower of Christ, if you're a believer, you're going to be here at Union in the fall, I think the best way to continue investing in relationships and to start new relationships is to find a way to serve in a local church. And so and there's a lot of reasons for that. I think first and foremost, we're called to serve the body. If we're going to invest in people, we're going to serve them. And so we're called to serve the body of Christ. And so I think the best place for that to happen is through a local church. But also, and this is just very practically of, giving yourself the expectation of you're going to join and invest in a local body of believers. I had a best friend who he was a year older than me. And so when I was a senior in high school, he was a freshman at Union, and the advice he gave to me was, hey, whenever you get to Union, you need to immediately try to find an obligation to where you're serving in a local church on a Sunday morning. And I was like, okay, great. But why are you so big on that? And he was like, because I'm serving, there's an expectation that I'm going to be here.
That's right.
And there's an accountability piece to that.
Yeah.
And not only am I holding myself accountable through that role that I have serving the body of believers, but even in the days when I'm not feeling it, the days when I had a long week of classes, had a late Saturday night hanging out with friends, those times when it'd be very easy to, sleep in a little bit, watch online, those are the times when that holds me accountable and to where I'm able to serve people and continue serving people because I've set myself these expectations and other people have these expectations that I'm going to be here and I'm going to be invested and I'm going to be serving. So that's my biggest plug here today is find a way to serve in a local church. And there's so many incredible local churches in Jackson.
I love that.
That love on college students so incredibly well. And so take advantage of that. Going back to point number 2, take advantage of that.
That's right.
Such
Kelsey?
good advice. Oh, man. Because I ditto everything that Hayden said, I'm going to go a different route and say, be comfortable being uncomfortable. So when you think about making relationships, you're again going to look at all your peers and think, this is coming so naturally to some of these people.
Yeah.
And people are going to group up really quickly. And I found myself, who's an extrovert, love meeting people, going, everybody's already found their person. And so I would say to you that's not true. It may look like that on the outside, but to continue to go to things, to push yourself out of your comfort zone. There's a movie, and I can't remember what it's called, but it talks about 5 seconds of uncomfortable can create a whole lifetime of success and thriving. And the verse that I would say I wish someone would have told me my freshman year is Psalm 37:5, and it's so practical, it's so good, but it begins with trust in the Lord. So that first part being you have to make your relationship with Christ above everything else. When Hayden was talking about church and making that a priority, I thought there's going to be so many things at Union that are going to be mandatory or obligations. And so then the things that are life-giving may fall to the bottom of your list because y'all are going to want to join a million different things. But please trust in the Lord and allow that to be your foundation for all the other, air quote, good things that you can fill your time with at Union. The next part of that is do good, which that follows, dwell in the land. So be here. Dwell here. You may feel like I want to go home. I want to be comfortable. I need some time away from Union. And take that if you do, but don't go home every weekend. Part of making relationships is being present, committing to dwell here, be at Union, give it everything you've got, and then cultivate faithfulness is the end of that verse. And that just means be a faithful friend. If you want to make really deep and impactful relationships, you've got to be a good friend to them. You've got to serve. You've got to show up. You've got to be okay being uncomfortable because now that you're in this 18 to 22 range, life is going to happen and it's going to be hard and challenging. And if you're not okay entering into that space with people, then they may not be able to do the same for you. Yeah. And so I would just say that. And then the last thing is, Dub mentioned this, is begin with the end in mind. Yes. So when you are looking at all these organizations and you're overwhelmed thinking, how am I going to make all these decisions? Think about who you want to be in the next 3 to 4 years and commit to being around people who have that same goal.
That's right.
And so if you want to be someone who is active in your local church and values the community, the body of believers, then get plugged in and fast in those areas. Yeah. And think about just who you want to be and what type of opportunities that can help you get there. Begin with the end in mind.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things that he says. The end for this class is May 5th, 2029. Wow. That's their graduation day. And it will come so fast.
Absolutely.
And so as you consider who you're becoming, who you want to be, how do you want to learn and grow? What relationships do you want to have? Who are you come May 5th, 2029? We are praying with you. We encourage you to pray about who you want to be on that date, and how we can come alongside you over the next several years that you're here. It is our honor and a privilege to receive the lives from these parents and steward them well. We do not take that lightly. And I'll wrap up with Psalm 90, verse 17. This is how Dub concluded his conversation, his session with families during orientation. And it's one of my favorite verses, and I feel like it's probably familiar to a lot of you. And it says, "May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands." That is our prayer for you. That is our prayer for the students, families, moms, dads, grandparents, siblings, everybody. What a beautiful season that lies ahead for you. We are so honored to see you soon, and we are here for you in any capacity. If you have questions about anything that we said, again, our email addresses will be in the show notes. But if you have specific questions about maybe the process of just things between now and move-in day, you still have your enrollment counselor. Reach out to them. Let them help you with paperwork, documents, anything and everything that you just might feel like you're not sure what the answer is, or you haven't done it, or whatever. They're there to serve you, as we all are. But anyway, thank you for listening, you guys. August the 14th.
See you soon.
Oh, I can't wait.
It is coming quick, you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of the Union family. And have a great day. New episodes will come out either in late August or early September, so be looking for those. All right, you guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. Have a great day. All righty, thanks for listening, you guys. Be sure and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode when we begin in the fall. And don't forget the show notes. All the links, our email addresses, everything that you're going to want to remember can be found in the show notes. All right. Thanks for listening. We love you guys. We'll see you soon.